We also help students who maybe are exploring graduate programs. So they're thinking like, oh, I know I'm going to need like a master's degree, but I have no idea like what's going to best fit me. We help students find internships, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, shadowing experiences, all of that good stuff. And then we help with the application process as well. So if students want assistance putting together their resume, their cover letter, their personal statement for grad school, anything like that. And then we also help with interview prep and doing mock interviews and all that good stuff. So we have lots of different programs and events that we offer in a group format, but then we also meet with students one-on-one as well. So you have that to look forward to whatever college you choose, but hopefully UNCW. So going into resumes, I just want to kind of throw this out there. Like when you guys hear the word resume, what do you think of? Like what comes to mind? You can throw it in the chat box, you can unmute.
Like job and like looking for jobs and stuff.
Okay, looking for jobs, yeah. Anything else?
I think about one page. I don't know why, but in high school, that was one thing that always told us have it in one page.
Yeah, awesome. Anything else? Cool. Okay. Well, a resume is really your marketing tool. So one page is definitely great guidance. It's not everything that you've ever done by any means. It's really what skills, experiences have I done recently that is relevant to whatever position that I am applying for. And that can look like a lot of different things, which kind of leads me to my next slide. So when might you use a resume? Same thing, throw in the chat, call it out. Roger, you already said like applying for a job. So what else? Is that the only thing that you would use it for?
Applying to college.
Applying to college. Some colleges do ask for a resume. Mm-hmm.
Probably scholarship applications.
Absolutely. Scholarships and grants if you want money. Mm-hmm.
Internships.
Internships, absolutely. Study abroad is another popular one. A lot of times you need to submit a resume for study abroad. But then also a really popular one too that you may not think about is when you are asking somebody to write a letter of recommendation, and that can be for scholarships, it could be for study abroad, it could be for admission to a college program as well. It's really, really helpful though, even though you might know that professor or know that teacher really well, if you can provide them with a resume so they have a better idea of like what all you've been doing when you're not directly in front of them, it's super, super helpful, and they can write a much stronger letter of recommendation if they have that information at their fingertips. And also, like, I know when I've written letters of recommendation, like I have an idea of what my students are doing, but then to see it all out on paper and have an idea of like how long they've been involved in some of these organizations, I can just, again, write to a stronger letter of recommendation for that. All right, so this is a sample of a maybe not so great resume, but this is a real resume that somebody submitted for an on-campus job. So you can see that they were involved in a lot of different things, but it's really hard to capture really what this person was doing, right? You're just like, they did a lot. I don't really know what they did, but they did a lot. You might also notice that this person doesn't have their contact information at the top, which that's actually a pretty common mistake that students make. Just share with you really quickly, I was hiring for a graphic design intern one time, and this person submitted like a beautiful resume and they had amazing background and skills. But that person forgot to put their phone number and email address on there, and I had no way to get in touch with them. They totally missed out because they were like top of the stack for me. And yeah, maybe I could have like, I don't know, found them on Facebook or LinkedIn or something, but most employers are not going to take the time to do that. So I wanted to show you this one because again, it's a real resume. It could use a little TLC, a little work. So in contrast, here's a much more, I guess, like solid resume. So on this one, you can really get a good grasp of, what this person has to offer. So just glancing at this, I can see really quickly, yes, they're currently a student. I can see they were involved in the community. They were involved on their campus. They have some cool certifications. Oh, and they have work experience. Like this person's clearly done a lot. So can you see how this one is like nice, neat, organized, and gets so much more information across so much quicker in comparison to the other one? So I'm seeing a couple of head nods. Cool. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about how to put this together. So I want to show you all of the career planning guide, and I will drop this link in the chat too. All right, so that's in the chat box. And just making sure everything went over smoothly. Is it showing the career planning guide on the screen? Yeah, okay, cool. So the career planning guide is available on our Career Center homepage, and it's basically like 80 plus pages of really solid career advice. So you will definitely find sample resumes in here. There's probably 12 to 15 or so. When it comes time to write a cover letter, again, we're not getting into that today, but there are cover letter resources in here. There are sample interview questions. There are questions that you can ask an employer during an interview. If you are needing to write like a thank you note, like in a professional way, but you aren't sure how to do that, there's guidance on that, what to wear to an interview, all kinds of really good stuff. But again, it's 80 plus pages, so you're not going to want to scroll through that whole document. So I do want to point out that this table of contents is clickable. So that's super helpful. So I'm going to just start with the resume format. So another, again, sample resume. This person has the contact information. They include their phone number and their email address. They start with education, which I would recommend that you all do as well. So each section is going to be in order of whatever is most relevant to whatever it is that you are applying for. So for you all thinking about applying for maybe an internship in high school, shadowing experience, when you're applying for those scholarships or maybe admission to UNCW or your college program, they're going to want to see education, right? Where are you in that process? And then you have lots of other sections that really depends on what kind of experience that you are bringing to the table. So really what they are wanting to see is, again, what kind of skills that you have, and you can build skills in a lot of different ways. So it's not limited to just part-time jobs, although jobs obviously are definitely something to include on there. But some other things that you might include would be if you are into computers, if you have any like computer programming skills, definitely language skills, on-campus clubs or organizations that you were a part of, definitely that volunteer experience that maybe you did in the community or through your school. If you've done a really intensive project, that's also something that you can highlight. So there's lots of like different ways that you can really market those skills and qualifications. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just want to again point out that there are like 15 or so sample resumes, and you have access to this, so you can definitely scroll through this at any time. But before I leave this page, something else I wanted to show you really quickly, especially for our students at UNCW. Sorry, I keep scrolling. Hopefully this is not making you dizzy. Up here, there are 2 pages of really strong verbs. I know you're probably like, why do I need that? But when you write your bullet points on your resume that describe those experiences, you're not going to use full sentences. So they're really going to be really short and to the point. So each bullet point should start with a verb. And that can be challenging, trying to think of like, what did I do in that role that's like relevant to put on here? So just even looking at the list of verbs can give you some different ideas. So you can be like, oh yeah, I coordinated, I implemented, I communicated. So that will kind of like jog your memory and give you some ideas of how you can start those bullet points. So definitely want to show you that. So I was thinking that it would be helpful to kind of walk you through how to start a resume. Does that sound good to you all? Yeah, cool. So my number one piece of advice when it comes to putting together your resume is to avoid using those templates. And there's a couple of reasons why. And mostly it's because I've heard all of these horror stories about people who have tried to use a resume template, and I really want to spare you all from having that experience. But basically, the story goes that the student has spent all this time like Googling free resume template, and then spent all this time trying to find the best looking one. And they're like, yes, got it. And they spend all this time like putting all their information in. And then at the end, it's like, yeah, sucker, pay me $10. And you're like, man, you said you were free.
I'm guilty of that. I did that before.
Yeah, well, Jessica, you too. Yeah, and it's like you may have found like a decent looking one.
They don't tell you till the end. That's how they get you.
Yes,
I
yeah,
spent a lot of time on it too.
I'm sure. And then hopefully, so I've heard a couple of, like either you pay it one time and then you're good to go. But then I've also heard like it's like stuck however it was like when you paid, and so you can't edit it. So it's like you have to pay however much money every single time you want to make an edit, right? So hopefully you do not have that situation. You are going to be editing this document for the next like 30 years of your life or so. So you definitely do not want to pay every single time you want to make an edit or an update. And then also, I don't know if Roger, you or Jessica experienced this, but some of them have like these hidden text boxes on there, and they are so frustrating. Like you'll just want to add like a letter, a period, something, and you cannot manipulate these text boxes, and you'll want to like throw your laptop out the window. It's so super frustrating. So I don't want you to experience that. I don't want this to be a stressful thing. I definitely don't want you to pay. And the other thing is too, these employers, when you go to apply for like internships or jobs, they are looking through stacks and stacks and stacks of resumes, so they can spot the templates really easily, and you don't want to look like everyone else that's out there. So you're just going to start with just a regular blank Word document, and I'll walk you through kind of how to get started with that. Again, if you have questions, thoughts, comments, just unmute or use the chat box. So, regular old Word document. So easy enough, just start with your name. Also, your font is going to be anywhere between a 10 and a 12. So, you know, as like 11th grader, 12th grader, or even freshmen, sophomores at UNCW, you know, 12 is probably a good place to start, because you want your resume, your one-page document to look nice and full, but not too crowded. So we can always go back and adjust that. So we're gonna put our name, and then you wanna put your phone number for sure. And then do whatever you want to kind of separate this. I usually do a couple of spaces, and then I do a vertical bar, and I'll do my email address. And then mailing address is totally optional. So you don't have to do that, but if you wanted to, you could do the same thing, a couple of space bars. So I'm going to take all of this, I'm going to center my header. And I want my name to be big and bold. So if I'm going to use like 12-point font everywhere else, then my name is going to be, I don't know, like 14, 16. So you want your name to really like pop off the page. So easy enough. Got our header. And then we're going to start with our first section. So again, for all of you, I recommend just doing education as your very first section. And you can make this look like a lot of things. I personally like to do like caps lock. I'll throw it in bold. There's no right or wrong to this. It's kind of just personal preference. I think I'll throw an underline on there too. It looks like that. If you are a fan of the lines that go all the way across the page, I'll show you quickly how to do that because students are always like, how in the world do you do it? So if you highlight wherever you want the line to go, and then at the top here, where you normally would do like the borders around like a box or like a cell in Excel, it defaults to that underline thing, and you would just click that. I'll take this off. No, I have a
Does
line.
that work for Google Docs too?
I don't know if it works for Google Docs, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know with like the Microsoft Word Online, that one has like limited features and I can't do it online there. So I think Google Docs might be the same thing where you have to download it onto Microsoft Word. But
Okay.
you can always Google how to create a line in Google Docs. When in doubt, right? So I'm going to take that off and go back to my underline. Okay. So within each section, you will always start with the most recent and kind of work your way backwards. So I'm going to add in UNCW for the UNCW students shortly, but I want to start with our high school folks. So if you can put the name of your high school in the chat box for me. Anybody? Lainey, thank you. Oops, I'm going to take off my caps. Oh, EA Lainey, thank you. Okay, so we have the name of our school, and then we'll have on there, let's say you're graduating in June. So we're going to include your month and the year that you will graduate. So that's going to be June 2021. And then I like to put my dates all the way on the right-hand side. I think it adds a lot of like balance to the page. But again, personal preference, whatever you'd like to do. And if you decide to do it right aligned, there's unfortunately not an easy way. You have to literally just do like tab, 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 space, 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 space. So do that until it goes to the next line and back it up. And then we're going to put the city and state for that. So it's Wilmington, NC. So you can see I'm getting like this wonky, like extra space here. To get rid of that, you'll actually just highlight all of this. You'll go up to, I think it's layout. Well, it's actually paragraph. I'm gonna right click and go to paragraph. And then this little checkbox, don't add the space between paragraphs of the same style. That's how you get rid of that. So now I have more control over those spaces. And actually, I lied. I'm gonna put Wilmington. I'm just playing with the formatting right now. So there's a couple of like key pieces of information that you need to include on your resume, but ultimately like how it looks is up to you. Let's do that. And then we have to put whatever it is that we are earning from that high school. So I'm going to put high school diploma underneath here. So that's what you all should have for your education. And then we can play with this if we want to do that in bold, we can do that. And I want to point out for education, you actually don't have date ranges. So you're not saying like, oh, I've been at Laney from like August was that 2017 to June 2021. That's really not what we're highlighting with education. We're highlighting the fact that you are working towards a degree or a diploma. So we're just going to put when you will earn that degree or that diploma. So for my UNCW students, I'm going to add in what that looks like for you. So while I'm doing this, if one of you want to pop your major into the chat box. So again, you're going to start with most recent. So let's find it out. Nobody has put their major. Thank you. Psychology with a leadership minor. Beautiful. So it's really important that you put, again, the degree that you're working towards. So you're not going to have the words like major. So it's going to be a Bachelor of Arts, Psychology, Leadership Studies minor. And then since we made our high school diploma bold down here, and we'll do the same up here. So easy enough. Now you all have your very first section. And so from here on out, we can get a little bit more creative with whatever we want to showcase. So if we have skills, if we have, again, languages, it would be a really good one. So let's do that. So I'm going to follow whatever I did up here. So I did bold in all caps, so it's an underline. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And then with languages, you want to kind of give an idea of your level of proficiency. So we might say like, oops, caps lock, fluent in Spanish, in English, conversational in French, maybe. And then we go on to our next section. So someone tell me either the name of a club that you were involved in, or you're currently involved in high school, or a volunteer experience, and tell me which one it is. You can pop that in the chat box for me, please. Okay, well,
I know you guys are involved.
what was that?
But I know you guys are involved in clubs.
Okay, well, I'll do mi casa. So we can do community. You can either call that community involvement, or that could be campus involvement as well. So whichever you want to highlight. So down here for your experience sections, you will include like the name of the organization that you're a part of, the location. So you can either put like Wilmington, North Carolina, or it might be, if it was through your school, you could say like UNCW or Laney High School. So we'll just do Wilmington. And you'll always want to include the time frame for when you were involved in that organization, and it should be month and year. Another way you could do it is like by semester too. So if you wanted to do fall 2019, and we're also involved in it, so it's going to be fall 2019 to present.
All right, Juan, good to see you.
So we have that. I'm going to pop that in bold. And then we'll want to include some bullet points describing what we do through CASA. So somebody want to throw something, either unmute and just say it out. It doesn't have to be beautiful or perfect, or you can throw it in the chat box too. It's Friday afternoon. Everyone's just like fried, huh?
So are you looking for a perspective from the mentors or the mentees?
Either one. I mean, I'd love to hear from the mentees.
So I do know that the mentees do career exploration workshops. They do SAT, ACT prep sessions. We do community service every year. What else? What else have we done, Roger?
That's great. I can definitely include stuff like that. So, and how often do you meet as a group, or the mentees?
Well, before the pandemic, we usually met like every other week or something like that.
Okay. So meet bi-weekly with a group of peers and mentors to explore careers and prepare for college, for life in college. See that. And then you would do another one, complete, 40 plus hours of community service each academic year. I don't know, that's a lot of community service, but so that kind of gives you an idea. So I have a question. If you finish a club, yes. So great question. So if you put the name of the club that you were involved in there, I'll show you what that looks like.
You can use Math Club. I was in that for like 1 year.
Thank you. Math Club, high school. So we would say like August 2019 to December 2019. So we have the month and the year that we started, and then the month and the year that we finish. So that is what that would look like. And then you would have other bullets. Good question. Any other questions that are coming to mind? So I'm not going to go through the whole resume. You don't have to worry about that. But now you have kind of an idea of what this will look like. And again, you would want to make this look at least like 3/4 of a page full. And there's definitely little tricks that you can use to make it look fuller. So reaching out to your mentor or the mentors, again, leaning on the career development counselors, I think you have all kinds of tricks because we look at lots of resumes. So we are happy to help you with that. But I know we wanted to leave like a few minutes for questions, comments, thoughts. Jessica, right?
Yes. And I was going to include, I know a student did say one of their questions prior to, as they were registering for this event, was if you've done any community service hours, is it good for resumes? If so, how would we attach it?
Yes, absolutely. So you would do it just like this. So it can either look like community service or community involvement. And you'll really want to highlight, again, the name of the organization that you did that through, the dates that you were involved there, and then bullet points really describing the impact that you made, the skills that you gained, and kind of giving an idea of like what that meant and like why it's impactful. But I think this kind of complete 40 plus hours of community service is a good way to do that.
Could you scroll up so I can take a screenshot of what you did? All right, thank you.
As for the section where education was, do you typically not include your GPA?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So GPA is totally optional. Normally, if it's like a 3.5 or higher, then absolutely 100% include it. Some people say like a 3.0 or higher to include it. If it's below a 3.0, that's where it's kind of like, oh, maybe. It kind of depends. Like if you were using your resume to apply like for a scholarship where it's a minimum GPA of like a 2.5 and you have like a 2.8, then I would probably include it on there just so they're not like questioning it. But your resume is always a like live document, so you're always updating it. Same thing with like your like major. Like for some of you might be like, I don't really know what I'm going to major in. So like today it's psychology. Tomorrow I might change it, especially with registration happening right now, right? So that could change. And then you would just update your resume tomorrow. If you do decide to include your GPA, you have a couple of options. You could do it on the next line here. GPA 3.42. So it can look something like that, or you can put your GPA on this line right here and do. You usually want to go 2 decimal points beyond that too. So I think when they actually calculate it for you, sometimes it's like 3 numbers and sometimes it's 4 numbers. You don't need to put all of that on there. So that's what that would look like. Certifications, great question. I would put that in a standalone section. So you can either have it like here. Oops. That's a good place for it. Or some people will pop the certifications at the very bottom. So it kind of depends how relevant. If you are applying for like a position as a lifeguard and you are CPR certified already, I would probably have your certifications at the very top. If you were, same thing, applying for maybe a position where you're working with children, then I would probably have your CPR certification towards the top. And then if you had CPR certification and you're applying for, I don't know, like a counseling type position, I don't know. So, you know, something that's not as relevant, counseling is still kind of relevant, then it would be towards the bottom. So yeah, there's that. Another popular one would be like your awards or honors. And the same thing as the certifications, you could include that. I would probably put it in between education and languages because most of your awards and honors would be affiliated with your education, but it can also go at the bottom. Another way, let's say like through the math club, you were recognized as the top performer in whatever it may be, then you can include a bullet point here instead of having a whole section for your awards. So that's one of those like, it depends. So leaning on somebody else who has like a more objective view can be helpful with that. Great question. Anything else as you're kind of like looking over your document? Anything you were unsure of?
Did you mention for the involvements, it goes for the recent ones that you've had and then goes down to the ones you've like, well, I know that most of I'm a college student, so I took away some of the stuff, well, most of it from high school. and I'll just have the stuff that I am in college now. But did you mention that it goes from the most recent things that you've added and then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So within your community involvement, yes, it would be most recent. So if you're still currently involved in anything, then that should be at the top, and then kind of go backwards in time. So go to the oldest. But your sections, you can move your sections in whatever order that you want. So I can either like put community involvement here, or let me add another one, like work experience. If you've had a part-time job, it might look something like this. So you can decide if you want to have work experience here, or if you want to put work experience up here. Like your dates don't really matter for that. It's just like within work experience, you would start with the most recent, and then within community involvement, start with the most recent. And the idea behind that is like, as you are getting more involved in different clubs or taking on new jobs or roles, you're working towards something that's more aligned with your next steps. So it would be more relevant. That's the idea behind that.
And Stacy, I did want to take the time to ask if you could kind of explain a little bit of your role as an advisor at the Career Center, especially because I know we do have college students as well as soon to be college students, and just explaining kind of the importance of using your Career Center.
Sure, yeah. So I work mostly with our freshmen and sophomore students, as well as our transfer students who are coming in, to help them review like your strengths and your interests and your values, and really finding meaningful majors here at UNCW that will align with all of those interests and strengths. And then also finding, again, careers that align with those majors too. So maybe you have the major piece figured out, but you're like, what the heck am I going to do with this? So definitely exploring those different careers. And then also, we do all kinds of different programs and events too to kind of help with that. So your very first semester here at UNCW, we have the Majors and Minors Fair, and that's where we have every department on campus represented. Some of it is upperclassmen students, and some of it is made up of the faculty within that department, but they just meet with students one-on-one to chat about what they have to offer. So what might be a good major minor combo? What are some of the prereqs that you might need to get into that program? What internships are popular for that particular major? So there's that event. We do a meaningful majors workshop. And then we also do Career Fest, which is my favorite one. Career Fest is where we bring alumni, so people who have graduated from UNCW, we bring them back to campus and meet with students from all years to really chat with them about what they've done with their major, what they do in their current job, what they like about their job, what was challenging. And that could also potentially lead to like internship opportunities, shadowing opportunities, just like a great way to start building that professional network. So that's what I do. But then my colleagues like Charles, who met with the group yesterday, he is going to help more along the lines of with like resume, cover letter, your personal statement for grad school, finding part-time jobs, internships, etc.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. And for our UNCW students who are on, if you are interested in scheduling an appointment, you can use Handshake to pick a date and time that works best for you. And then our drop-in hours are offered Monday through Friday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And those are through Zoom. And the link is on the Career Center homepage.
And I definitely highly recommend you use these services because I know personally I took forever to finally go into the Career Center. And it's definitely a resource that is there for you and opens a lot of opportunities.